Okay, I think everybody's here. Chuck?
It's amazing. How did you do that, Ron? That's why we hired you. You just know these things.
Lucky, I guess.
Yeah, just lucky. Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Where are we? January 7th, 2021. First meeting of the new year, the Los Osos Community Services District Board of Directors. Could we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Director Croy.
I'm here.
Director Gatchell.
I'm here.
Director Oholsky. Vice President Womack.
Present.
President Susenia.
I'm here. Looks like Marshall's joined us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good.
I didn't hear you say it. Sorry.
I was muted and I
He
just
was muted.
I'm
Sorry about that, Marshall.
No, it's okay.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to agenda item 2. We're going to be going to closed session tonight. We're going to take public comment on this. I guess first I would ask Councilman, is there anything beyond what is given here under closed session, anticipated litigation that you want to bring up before we have public comment?
No, that is the only item. So it would be appropriate to take, well, I think, yes, it would be appropriate to take public comment on closed session, and that would be the only item to be discussed. So you want to take public comment?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that.
If you'd like to make a public comment on closed session and you're on your phone, *9. If you're on your computer, please raise your hand. There's no public comment at this time.
Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to the board, and I guess we will convene to closed session, and we'll be back here at 6 o'clock.
Yep, and just for the public, President Susenia, if they don't have the agenda, this is the board will go to closed session on anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9. There is one case to be discussed.
And yes, we'll have a report out of closed session at 6. With that, we'll convene to closed session. Okay, it's 6:01. I guess we can reconvene back to open session. And could we start with a roll call, please?
Director Croy.
I'm here.
Director Gatchell.
Present.
Director Oholsky. Vice President Womack.
Present.
President Susenia.
I'm here. Okay, we will have a report out of closed session now from District Council Minery.
Yes, the report out of closed session is no reportable action.
Okay, everybody loves those. With that, we will go on to the board officer election. Being the first of the new year, it's time to demonstrate to the world what a peaceful transition of power can look like. And so with that, Mr. How do we just looking for nominations for president to start with, I guess. This is weird. Usually we have a little slip of paper in front of us, and I'm not sure.
Right. This will be we'll have to do it a little bit differently this year. Just for your information, okay, Marshall's on. He was having a little bit of trouble there. In the past, it has been by nomination and then by paper vote. This year with Zoom, the only way we could figure to do it was by nomination, and if everyone's willing, it would just be a voice vote.
A consent.
Yes.
Yeah, a voice vote. Well then, okay, I guess we need to start with the office of president first. And
I'll make a motion.
I wanted to.
Okay, you can make a motion. I'll second it.
I would like to nominate our current vice president, Chris Womack, for the office of president. I think that the year spent as a vice president kind of introduces you nicely to that next role. And that's my nomination.
I will second that nomination.
Thank you.
And I would echo what Chuck just said. And I think Chris, being a member of my financial advisory committee and then working up to being a board member, I think she's done an excellent job, especially with the refinancing of the bonds and all of that. So I really appreciate all the work she's done for the district.
And I like the
Oh.
question she asked Bruce at LOCAC last month. So yeah, that's good. Now,
Yeah,
so
I
I
liked
get,
your questions for him too.
we can, do we go right to a vote, or I guess we can ask for other nominations. Are there other thoughts out there?
And
But
then,
you also, Chuck, you have to do public comment too.
Okay,
and then that you do have to close nominations at some point.
right. I guess I'd like to wait until we make sure we have our nominee straight before we go to public comment.
I have no further nominations.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything else. Okay, so we'll go to public comment on agenda item 5A.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Julie, you're able to speak.
Good evening, Julie Tacker, and I just wanted to thank Chuck for his representation as the president of the board this last year. You've done a good job, and good luck to you all.
Thank you.
All right, Lynette, you just have to unmute yourself and you're able to speak.
Hi, Lynette Tornotsky. I also would like to thank Chuck for the work he's done this past year and heartily endorse Christine Womack as the next president. I think she'd be fabulous. Thank you.
There's no other public comment at this time.
Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. We should just, I guess, do a roll call. Go ahead, Laura.
Director Croy,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Director Ohilsky,
Yes.
Director Womack,
Yes.
Director Sesenia.
Yes. Okay. Do we turn it over now to the new president for the, I guess I could carry on through agenda item 5B.
We've done it both ways in the past, Chuck, so I think it's your call.
Okay, you know what? This is the end. Agenda item 5B, and then I'll gladly turn it over. But at this point, if no one objects, I'd like to nominate Matthew Croy for vice president. We tried to make this happen last year, and I know he wanted another year to think about it. And I just think that I've appreciated his input, and I see no reason not to have him be our vice president.
I'll second that nomination too, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that. And by the way, before this is over, I wanted to thank you for being the president during this year. That was not what you were expecting, I'm sure, last January, to be Zooming the entire time, basically. So thanks for handling that for us.
It wasn't, you know, in light of my unusual circumstances, all the time I was spending in Tehachapi and everything, it probably worked out as well for me as anything could have. It's been different. I can't believe how quick the year has been.
Yes.
That's what amazes me, but and yet so long too. Outside of the CSD, I'm just happy with the direction that we're in, the footing that we're on now. So if there are no other nominations for vice president, we'll go to public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, *9. If you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Lynette, you're able to speak.
Lynette Tornotsky, Los Osos. I think that Matt would be a fabulous vice president, and I'm glad you nominated him. Thank you.
There's no other public comment at this time.
Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to the board for a roll call vote.
Director Croy,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Director Ohilsky,
Yes.
Director Sisenia,
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. Oh, I'm not used to that.
You'll get used to it. And I've got to say, Marshall, it's good to have three new board members, relatively new board members. I am enjoying the fresh energy. And with that, take it away, Christine.
Yeah, Chuck, and I'd like to agree with you too. I think it's good to have three new members here, or not new members, but relatively new.
Fairly new, bringing new blood, new energy, and they will influence others to think about doing this too.
Yep, hopefully.
Chuck, I'd like to thank you also for your leadership this last year. And I always feel you do a good job of listening and acknowledging the board and the public. And I'm also so glad Matthew's agreed to serve. So with that, I think we have a general action item, a presentation of the audit for fiscal year 2019 to 2020.
And I can do a quick introduction to that.
That would be great.
Great, thank you. Yeah, to start off, I really wanted to thank our staff here, Adrian, our district accountant, Laura, of course, our administrative services manager, and Alicia, who is our utility billing specialist. This was definitely a team effort on gathering all the information needed to conduct the audit. And I just can't say enough about our office staff and their professionalism. Next slide. So with that, tonight's presentation is by our lead auditor, Travis Hull, who is a partner with Moss, Levy, and Hartzheim, the firm we have contracted with. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Travis. Is Travis?
Looks like I was muted for a second there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I just want to start off by thanking you and Adrian and the rest of the staff. You know, it was a unique year for the audit. Luckily, we were able to come out and do the audit on site, but most of the follow-up was done remotely, and you know, everything was done very efficiently, even with everything going on. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of how the audit process works. It's kind of broken up into two pieces. First, we do our internal control testing. Internal controls are kind of the basis of an accounting system of an organization. So what we do is we look at the internal controls and we evaluate whether the controls are appropriate for a district this size. And we agree that they were. And then we do testing in all of the different areas. So that's on payables, on payroll, on receipts, and on different things like that. We pull samples in each section. And, you know, I'm happy to report that this was one of the few districts that we audited this year that had no internal control findings. And this is a special year with that, and that, you know, with everything, you know, changing in March, the district didn't miss a beat. We even, you know, purposely pulled samples after March, kind of when everything went remote, and all of the internal controls were covered perfectly. So that's something to really commend staff on. And so once we get through our internal controls, we move on to the next part of the audit, and that's auditing all of the numbers of the financial statements. We audited those. All of the numbers were fairly reported, and that's why we were able to give an unmodified opinion on the audit, which is the highest, you know, highest level of assurance that we can give as auditors. And so, you know, I don't have a ton to give tonight because it was a very clean audit, and the staff was great this year, very appreciative of all of their help, and it was a pleasure to work with all of you. And then I can open it up for questions.
Christine,
All right,
Christine, could I make
yes.
a comment, please? So this,
yes, please do.
we got this report, as you know, at the Financial Advisory Committee meeting on Monday. And the Financial Advisory Committee was also very, very appreciative of the work done by our staff and the auditor, and they were very supportive of the findings here, which find us to be much, much better than we've been in the past. So I wanted to give our staff and Ron and Adrian a pat on the back, as did the Financial Advisory Committee at our meeting on Monday.
Excellent. Do any of the other board members have questions or comments?
This is so much better than getting a phone call from the county auditor's office saying what was going on out there last year. I remember that 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, this is good.
Yes. I also want to express appreciation for our staff for allowing us to get this result and doing such a good job. If that's it, I'll open it for public comment.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, please dial *9. And if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Julie, you're able to speak. You just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening again, Julie Tacker. And we do have some new blood on the board. Chuck, you alluded to it a moment ago. That was the year that was described as our finances being a bowl of spaghetti. And I'll never forget that. That's almost the last thing you want to hear. I think the worst thing that Chuck and I experienced when we were on the board together was when we had to be the first community services district in the history of California to file bankruptcy. So the district's come a long way, and the leadership, the staff at the district right now is gelling well, it appears. And I want to congratulate you all on the results of the audit.
There's no other public comment at this time.
All right. I guess I'll bring it back to the board. Just my one comment is, when that happened, that's what piqued my interest in serving on finance committee. And I knew Vicki and she invited me for that. So had that not happened, I probably wouldn't be here. So
It still wasn't worth going through that, as much as I appreciate you being here. That was
no, nobody wants it.
Yeah.
No one wants to go through that.
No.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay. So we don't vote on this, do we?
Yes, we would like a motion to receive and file the fiscal year 2019-20 fiscal audit.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion.
As chairman of the Financial Advisory Committee, I will so move.
I'll second it.
Anyone?
This is Matthew.
All right. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ohilsky.
Yes.
Vice President Croy.
Yes.
Director Sesenia.
Yes.
Director Gatchel.
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right. Moving on to the California Voters' Rights Act. Ron, do you give an introduction to this as well?
Yes, I have a brief presentation. Next slide, there you go, thank you. This item is to consider the adoption of a resolution declaring the district's intention to go to district-based elections. I'd like to start with a little bit of background. Currently, the district elects boards through an at-large system, electoral system, and that's where each board member may reside anywhere within the district boundaries and is elected by the entire electorate. And so basically, you can live anywhere in the district. The top vote getters are seated as part of our board. Next slide, please. The California Voter Right Act was first adopted into law in 2002, and it allows for legal challenges alleging that at large systems like we have, have resulted in racially polarized voting within a jurisdiction, and it also allows plaintiffs to seek court order for jurisdictions to convert to district-based election systems. This is an issue that many cities, and especially around our county and larger districts, have had to grapple with for many years, and it has now trickled down to agencies like us. Moving to a district-based election system is considered safe harbor under the CVRA, and it prevents a CVRA lawsuit alleging the dilution of protection class voting strength. Next slide. So if we decide to do this, the next steps would be to adopt the resolution that we have before you tonight. And this would be the first step in establishing our compliance with the California Voters' Rights Act, stating our intent. Next slide, please. But there's quite a process that we would have to go through to actually go to district-based voting. So prior to considering that move and doing an ordinance or a resolution to institute this type of system, we'll have to go out and hire a qualified consultant to do the demographic services to identify how our population is racially profiled and where they live. Conduct public outreach, which includes non-English speaking communities, which will take quite a bit of effort, I'm sure, for our staff here. Before drawing the maps or proposed divisions, we have to have at least 2 public hearings, which we invite the public, of course, regarding the composition of the district. Next slide, please. Then after drawing the maps, we have to have 2 more public hearings to ensure that the public is engaged and agrees or has can comment on how we've made up the districts. And then finally, we would adopt the districts and go to district-based elections. Next slide, please. The financial impacts right now are unknown. We've heard that hiring a demographer could cost as much as $20,000, which we don't have in this fiscal year budget, but we did have money, happens to be $20,000 for the election, which we did not have to hold this year. So at mid-year, we're going to propose moving that to professional services. And then as the cost kind of unfold for us, we'll bring those back to the board as available. Next slide, please. So with that, we're available, both our counsel, Jeff Menery, and myself are available for any questions that the board might have and the public.
Oh, excellent. Thanks for that presentation, Ron. And does the board have any questions or discussion? All right, can we open it to public comment?
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, *9, and if you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Lynette, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Lynette Tornotsky, Los Osos. I'm also a member of LOCAC, which is divided into districts the way this resolution is proposing. However, we have 2 people in each district, which you won't have. This last election, which we had to cancel because we have to hold ours separately outdoors. We're not on a ballot like you guys. So we had to cancel our election. But as the person who runs the website and I got all of the applications to run, one district had no one. I mean, since we have 2 people, there is 1 person that will remain, but for the next 2 years, unless, you know, something happens, because we'll have an election eventually, there would be an open seat. So you only have 5. What if nobody decided to run in one of your districts? And that's my comment. Thanks.
All right, Julie, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening again, Julie Tacker. And you don't really have a choice. This is the law. You have to do this. It's wonderful that there's $20,000 from this year that could go towards the effort. I think it might be more expensive than $20,000 when we get down to it. But I'm a member, as so is Lynette, of the Land Use Committee for LOCAC. And I actually told the members of the committee this week that this was going to be on your agenda and that they might want to pay attention. And I'm just thinking tonight, without offering up volunteers, but offering up volunteers, that maybe this is something that you could ask our committee and the first, I guess you'd have to go through LOCAC, but ask if maybe we could be sort of a subcommittee that looks at whatever the boundaries are. I think you will have to have 5 districts. And when one district doesn't get any interest, then I think you can appoint, or you can ask the Board of Supervisors to appoint someone in that space. But ideally, because the community will be cut into 5 districts, people don't have to go up against, that, well, they just might feel more comfortable running because they're going to know their neighbors and they're going to know what issues are important to that portion of the community. Things that happen along the waterfront are different than those things that happen up in Cabrillo, and maybe there's a different flavor of what those people bring to the board, just because they have a different perspective. Certainly different if there is a socioeconomic district that needs a voice that's specific to that, that would be valuable. If it's based on cultural, that would be valuable. So it just brings diversity to the board, and I fully support it. But I think it might be good if you first ask council if it would be appropriate, but maybe the LOCAC Land Use Committee could help you with when the districting question comes up. Maybe we can help you with looking at the geographic lines. Thank you very much.
There's no other public comment at this time.
All right. I have to agree with Lynette that it could be a problem filling our board if we divvy up the community. Ron, do you have any comments on the public comment?
Definitely, there is a concern about finding people to run within each district. I do appreciate Julie's comment about, assisting in reviewing the boundaries and how those would work. Because this is going to be, as I outlined, a concerted effort by the district to involve as many people as possible to make this work. So as the time approaches, Julie, we'll consider what our options are to help with that public outreach and that review of any boundaries we do come up with.
And Christine, this is Chuck. And I would like to say, as Julie said, that we don't have a choice here. This is the trend. The major cities across the state and the nation, this has been an issue for a while. And the transition in the bigger places has been to district-based, away from at-large. So we need to study this and be ready in case it has to happen here too.
All right. Guess we will study.
So I'll make that motion. I move that the
I'll
board
entertain a motion.
Yeah, I move that the board adopt resolution number 2021-01, declaring its intention to transition from at-large to district-based elections by November 2022. And again, understanding that this is a resolution, we are studying this issue. This is not a commitment to adopt the district-based elections.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Matthew.
All right, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Sisenya,
Yes.
Vice President Croy,
Yes.
Director Gatchell,
Yes.
Director Ohilsky,
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right, so I think now is time to move for public comments for items not on the agenda.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, *9 or raise your hand. All right, Julie, just unmute yourself.
Okay, good evening again, Julie Tacker. And this is kind of off the wall, but I've noticed that your agency does not use your web cameras to perform these meetings. So the public cannot see their representatives. Some of the meetings that I attend, the representative maybe is in curlers in a robe, but they put up a photograph of themselves instead of being seen on the camera. It occurs to me that I don't know Mr. Gatchell. I don't know what he looks like. If I bumped into him in the store, he'd have a mask on. I probably still wouldn't know what he looked like. But we're not seeing the general manager or legal counsel, the people participating in this meeting. The public doesn't need to be on camera, but I do think that it would be nice for the public to be able to see who is representing them. So I'd like you to consider using your webcams from home, or even if you had a portrait or even the board portrait, some intermittently on the screen. I think that way the public could feel more comfortable if they do meet you in the market, that it can reach out to you. But this has gone on for about 10 months. I know what you all look like, but I don't know what Mr. Gatchell looks like, and I don't know what our new fire chief looks like. So I think just to be more neighborly, I think it's a good recommendation you might consider. Thank you.
There's no other public comment at this time.
Okay, then I'll bring it back to the board. Does anyone, I think we could take that into consideration, Julie. Does anyone else want to comment on public comment?
Well, I have a couple of questions, I guess a question comment. Does it cost more to run a Zoom meeting with video as opposed to just audio? I don't know. Does it matter? Everybody just activating your cameras?
It does not cost more.
Okay. But you have to have an individual Zoom account to be able to post some kind of picture. I know I get involved in Zoom meetings for others, and I always envious of the people who have their little portrait posted when you know that they're not right. And, and I don't have that ability. So I just blank out the video when it's time for me to exit the meeting for a moment. Do you know if that's true? Do we have to have our individual Zoom accounts, or can we finagle a way to?
If we're
Go
just
ahead.
using video, you do not have to have an individual Zoom account.
No,
Zoom, you can create a free account though and have a picture uploaded as well if you would like to opt for that. So this way, if you don't have video up, your picture would be up.
Yeah, Chuck, you need to upload on your computer or your phone or whatever the app. That's all you need to do.
Okay.
That gives you the ability to do that.
I know. Next, you'll want me to get a TikTok account.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was just answering your question.
You're absolutely right. Thank you. No, I think this is something that we should consider. This has been going on for a long time, and I cannot wait to get rid of it. Actually.
Well, I don't think any of us anticipated it would be going on for this long when we started doing it this way. So.
Yeah, I was hoping we could, start resuming public meetings, but it doesn't look like that'll happen for a while.
And Chris, I'm sorry, we had one more public comment come through that just as I was closing it. So if you would like to open it up, let me know.
Oh, I would like to open it up. I would like to hear the public comment.
All right, Lindy, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's Lindy from Los Osos. I agree with Julie. I even like the live video. I do a class online that way, and it makes everybody see each other, and it doesn't seem to congest comments or involvement from that many people. So, and then you get to know who else is watching or listening. So I would encourage looking into doing something like that. I think there's a little cost to it, but I think you already pay a cost. The other thing that just smacked me in the forehead again was nobody knows. There's a real lack of connection with our community. So if you want to get people interested in running for a seat and coming to meetings and attending, which I think is a really good thing, we need to do something to work with Estero News to get a section that, we put in what the agenda might be, or even a meeting notice, how to go to the meeting, how to get involved, a little click about what LOCAC is. I mean, I'm using this for LOCAC, but maybe we could even work together to find a way to work with Estero News to get something so that people can see what upcoming issues are. They can tune in when they're ready. They can sign up for the mailing so that they get alerted. But it's really, I think there's a big disconnect from our community understanding what the CSD is and what LOCAC is. And so I would urge that we kind of look into something where you could just put a little brief about upcoming meetings and have it be a regular part of their every 2-week production, and work with LOCAC. Maybe we can share costs, and I'm sure Dean will be very generous with allowing us to have a space like that. So that's my suggestion.
All right, now there's no further public comment at this time.
Okay, thanks for that suggestion, Lindy. I'm pretty sure Estero News welcomes content. That's probably not a bad idea. Does anyone else have thoughts on that?
This is Chuck. I think that's a good idea, that we maybe periodically try and just have a little rundown of current events going on at your CSD. And right now there are a couple of easy sort of public interest type topics. We've got a new president, we've got a new board member. Maybe an interview with each of them at a different time would be just a little intro public kind of thing, and then an update on what's going on at your CSD could follow that, and maybe an interview with our general manager even.
So President Womack, before this gets into too much of a discussion, it's not on the agenda, it's just public comment, so.
Oh. Okay. Thank you.
Always got to reel me back in.
I would, this is Troy, just add for Julie's, happy to do video. You're more than welcome. I have a public profile on LinkedIn. If you want to look at Troy Gatcho on LinkedIn, my picture's there and my background as well.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to the administrative and committee reports.
Typically with these, we ask if there's any questions on the first 3, and then I'll jump in with my general manager's report.
Okay, are there any questions on the fire, sheriff, or utilities reports? Okay, hearing no questions. Ron, we'd love to hear your general manager report.
Great, thank you. Typically I do jump back into the utilities report just a little bit to provide the board and members of the public some updates. I just wanted to talk to 2 specific things on the end of the utilities report, which are the department updates. A little bit of update on the 10th Street well. We've completed all the rehab work on it. I'll be bringing the total cost of that project to the board at the next meeting as part of the mid-year budget adjustments. That did turn out to cost almost $64,000, which really brought it into more of a capital type project type of cost. But I'll fully explain the costs and what we plan to do on the budget adjustments for that. The good news is we were continuing to have just slight discoloration of the water this week, but at 3 o'clock, Nate Paul, our crew leader, came in and said it is clearing up. We're going to run it one more time in the morning and then superchlorinate it, have it sit over the weekend, flush the chlorine and take a sample, and hopefully we'll have that well into our system next week. The other heads up one is the 16th Street tank inspections. We have 2 tanks up there, the north and the south. The inspection report came back indicating some pretty severe corrosion, especially on the south tank, that we will need to take care of. It'll rise on the priority list to very high. We have a person, an outside consultant that did the inspections, providing us with a cost estimation for what that will cost to do the exterior rehab. And then also there'll be some interior work that's going to need to be done. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that we have another probably pretty high cost project coming forward that we're going to have to prioritize. Going back to my general manager's report, of course, with the COVID-19 spike that we're seeing, obviously the office remains closed. We were hit with some Cal OSHA new emergency prevention standards that it was interesting. They came out on November 30th and took effect immediately. Fortunately, it appears our COVID response plan that we prepared and the board adopted back in last March put us in compliance with almost all the new standards. We'll be making some minor adjustments to get in full compliance, but I just thought I would bring that to your attention since I feel we have been doing a good job as an organization with COVID response. One of the main things I wanted to point out is a staff accolade to Nate Paul, our water crew leader. As with all our water crew people, people don't understand that they do rotating shifts on standby, which means they have to be available for a week 24/7 while they're on standby, which really does impact their personal lives. You basically have to be ready to respond with any type of call for that time period. But I did want to point out on the night of December 27th, when we had really our only big rainstorm, a lot of Los Osos did experience power outages during the night. And Nate got an alarm at about a little after midnight that one of our wells had gone down. And so he responded, he lives in Grover Beach, he responded. And when he got here, all our wells except the 3rd Street well had shut down because of some electrical issues that we assume were power surges and that our circuit boards tripped. So he spent from 1 in the morning to 5 in the morning troubleshooting and bringing each well back up. And then he went on and did his full day's work. And he exemplifies what our water crew is like. And I just wanted to acknowledge him personally for how hard he works and takes his job seriously, but the water crew in general. The only other thing, I don't talk much about the Water Resources Advisory Committee, but I did want to point out that they have an initiative to look at stormwater capture and have convened a subgroup to review work done by San Luis Obispo County Public Works staff. And I volunteered to be on that committee since that is one of the, not high priority in our basin plan, but one of interest to me and I think has potential. So I volunteered to be on that program and I'll report back the results and if there's anything of interest for our districts and for our district. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Excellent. So, oh, go ahead. Is there a question?
Yeah, this is Matthew. thanks, Ron, for that report. I wanted to ask you about the COVID vaccine and where our crews are on that tiered list, and if there's any, you have any idea when you expect that to potentially be available?
I do have some information on that. They're considered Tier 1B. All water and wastewater workers are in that Tier 1B. So I believe, from what I understand, that they will have the opportunity for vaccination coming up here relatively soon. I know one member of the crew, I think, got got his first vaccination yesterday, but it was because he volunteers, or I'm sorry, has work associated with some of the care facilities here in the community. So that's coming up. Exactly when that's going to happen, I'm not sure, but there will be that opportunity soon.
Excellent. And I'm so proud that, Ron, you got us COVID compliant so early. And I also want to thank Nate Paul for the great work he did.
Thank you. I'll definitely pass that along. I just really feel strongly people don't understand the hard work our water crew do in general.
Yeah, it needs to be acknowledged. Any more questions on the general manager report? Okay, hearing no questions, do we have a LOCAC report?
Chuck, that would be you.
Chuck's muted.
Still muted?
Yep, still muted. I'm worried that, let's see, we could loop back. There's no report for Parks and Rec. The next one would be utilities. That's also Chuck. Marshall, do you want to do finance and maybe?
I got you. I
Oh, wait,
found you.
there he is. Yay, okay.
I had a bunch of screens up and trying to sift back through them all. The LOCAC report, yes. December, I attended the LOCAC meeting and gave the usual update about the infrastructure updates and things that are going on that way. And talked about the elections that were coming up and the fact that we had committee openings and that kind of thing. And then talked about the letter that we wrote in response to the community update or the community plan that the county had put out. And I basically talked about how our concerns were regarding the failure to consider all the metrics as in favor of the sustainable yield metric, and the fact that we were also concerned about the funding plans that hadn't really been put together to talk about how future development might fold into the funding of the infrastructure that's needed here, and the usual things that were in our letter. And that was the LOCAC report.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions about the LOCAC report? Then let's move on to the Utility Advisory Committee report.
That was, again, similar to kind of a combination of LOCAC and the board meeting. We went through the utility department updates, all those kind of things, and then talked about the, I think it was the day before that the county had approved the community plan update. And in spite of the fact that there really was very little discussion about the water issues and our concern about that, we just never rose to attention, it seemed like. And we discussed that at Utility Advisory Committee, and we had a good discussion, but we'll just have to see where this goes. We're waiting for word on when that plan moves ahead to the Coastal Commission, and we'll take it from there, I guess, and continue to work through the Basin Management Committee to try and resolve those issues, of course.
Excellent. Thank you, Chuck. Does anyone have any questions for Chuck on UAC? All right. Marshall, the FAC report, please.
Yep, I already spoke about us getting the presentation about the audit and how appreciative we were of, or the committee was of staff's efforts in that regard. So the only other two things on our agenda, action items, were the warrant register for December 2020 and the financial report for the period ending November 30th, 2020. And in both regards, there was a unanimous motion from the Financial Advisory Committee to recommend to the board that they approve the warrants and they receive and file the financial reports. And that was it.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Any announcements of district and community interests and reports on attendance at public meetings, training programs, conferences, and seminars?
You know, there's one
right.
The upcoming meeting that I would like to mention. I saw it on LOCAC's agenda, and that is there's going to be a Zoom webinar, and I don't know the exact date, late in January, about homelessness in the community. And it's obviously a growing problem. And if you have time, it might be something that we want to pay attention to, depending on personal interest. And Lynette probably knows the exact date. I believe it's end of January, 26th, something like that. But it's a growing issue out here.
Yeah, growing issue everywhere, unfortunately. Is that the LOCAC sponsored?
It is. It's a county sponsored, but I saw it on the LOCAC website. So that's where you'll find the information on the LOCAC website.
All right, excellent. All right, the next part I think is me, the appointments for the advisory committees. Is that right? And so mostly they're staying mostly the same. The difference being I'm going to chair finance and Marshall will be vice chair. And Marshall is going to be chair of ESAC, and Troy Gatchell will be the vice chair. Parks and Rec will still be chaired by Director Croy, and Troy Gatchell will be vice chair. Utilities Advisory is going to stay the same with Chuck being the chairperson and Croy being vice chair. Basin Management Committee is Director Ohilsky, and the alternate is Director Cesenia. CapsFlow is going to be Director Cesenia. The alternate will be Matthew Croy. Fire Safe Council will be me, and Croy will be the alternate. The Morro Bay Estuary Program will be Director Ohilsky, and the alternate will be me, Director Womack. And the Walder Resources Advisory Committee will be Director Cesenia, and the alternate will be General Manager Munns. Any questions? Okay. And
real quick, this is Matthew Croy. I know that we have some appointments to make on some of the committees. When does that get to happen?
We've been in conversation, especially with Director Millage stepping down. We've been working with Director Gatchell and with you, Director Croy, to try to fill those spaces. I believe both of you have made some decisions, and if you would like to announce them tonight, or you could wait till next meeting to announce the positions that you've appointed.
I know for me, I'd like to make sure that happens before the next round of meetings, so those people are still participating.
Well, with your appointment, they're eligible to participate because it's not a board direction or a board approval. The one we are still working on is ESAC because that group has not met in quite a while. We're trying to affirm what that membership list will look like.
Okay, so I could bring that up at closing board comments then?
Or you could do it right now if you'd like.
Okay, well, I am pleased to announce that I'll be appointing Sandra Cirillo for the Finance Advisory Committee. She's been on that committee for some time, and I spoke with her, and she's willing and excited to continue her work there. So I really appreciate that. And then on the UAC, I'm going to appoint Jan Harper. Jan is a veteran of that committee, and I really appreciate all of the experience and perspective that she brings to it.
Excellent. Thanks, Matthew. And I can announce that Sherry Grimm has agreed to return to the FAC committee.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Yes.
No, she was an outstanding member for a number of years. I know that she had other issues that she had to take care of, but that's awesome. Speaking as the former chair of the committee, I think that's great.
Yes, I'm very pleased. Okay, appointment by the board of director for the ad hoc committee to review the board bylaws. I appoint, I believe, myself and Marshall. Is that?
Yep, that's
Well,
fine with me. I think it's something, we have some direction that we've been talking about for the past year relative to compensation and other things that need to be clarified on the bylaws. So I think we can do it in a relatively quick fashion, Christine, or yeah, Chris, and then
Yes.
get it back to the board next month, hopefully.
All right, that sounds great. Do we have any, oh, go ahead.
I would also add that I'll be reappointing Alyssa Feldman to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Can we move to, do we have any responses to previous asked questions?
We do not.
Okay. All right, what's next?
Public comment on items on the administrative committee reports and the consent agenda.
But please
Thank
see
you.
if any directors want to pull anything first.
Oh, do any directors want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Then we'll go to public comment on said agenda.
If you'd like to make a public comment and you're on your phone, *9. If you're on your computer, please raise your hand. All right, Lindy, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi again, Lindy. I feel pretty concerned that the ESAC committee has not really gotten a boost to get moving again. I would suggest, and then the fire safe committee blending into that kind of seems like it would make sense, but I really think that we need to get back and touch with our fire safety and our station management, and working better together is a good thing. And so I would urge that maybe contacting the prior board members. I think a lot of them would rejoin, and I think it would be the start to putting a committee back into service. So I support ESAC and trying to get that going again. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Lynette, did you just lower your hand? Lynette, you're able to speak.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to thank Chuck for bringing up the Homeless Compassion and Action Community Forum. That's going to be on Tuesday, January 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. It's a Zoom webinar, and you will have to RSVP in order to join that meeting. Please visit the locac.info website. The poster is on the front page right there. You just have to click on it to get to the real poster for that, and the links on the poster are live, so you can sign up through there. But I just wanted to make sure that people knew they would have to sign up in order to join, and it should be a very important meeting, conjunction with LOCAC and the county. So please visit our homepage, locac.info. Thanks.
All right, Julie, you're able to speak.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Julie Tacker, and first I wanted to ask about COVID in our fire department. I noticed that in a neighboring community had firefighters test positive, and it really affected their abilities. Wanted to second Lindy on having more ESAC meetings. That's been over a year. It's been almost, I think, 2 years since we had the last Emergency Services Committee meeting. I have great concern over the large, expensive projects that are popping up in the water department. And I would ask that maybe Ron run some numbers to see if the money's there to address these things and still address our long-term goals. We did not take a rate increase last year when we could have, and I hope we haven't shorted ourselves. And then on the consent agenda administrative, I forgot what it's called right now. The item to give staff establishing a legislative policy platform. I kind of wish that this one was discussed by your board. Maybe you could circle back around to it. This kind of came up a year or so last year, maybe a little bit. And I just don't want the staff to support something that it really isn't within the goals of the board and the district. So forgive me. Maybe Ron could talk about this before you guys adopt it. Thank you very much.
There's no other public comment at this time.
Okay, closing public comment. Ron, do you want to address those?
Yes, I'll start with ESAC. We have scheduled our first meeting for February 18th. Those are going to start off as quarterly meetings. And when I mentioned previously, we're trying to just confirm who is willing to continue to serve. And we've asked the directors to either tell us if they want to change a committee member or not. And so we're in the process of getting that together. And we actually, next meeting, will have our work plans for each committee be adopted by the board. And we have a preliminary work plan for ESAC. So we're making some progress there. I'll talk to, we do have a battalion chief Province. It is on the line. I don't know, Paul, if you want to talk to the COVID situation up at the fire department. Are you available, Paul?
Paul has his hand up. Oh, we can hear you.
All right, here I am. The elusive Paul Province. So as far as COVID goes, at Station 15, we've had we have had instances of exposure, but we have not had any instances of positive test results amongst any of the CAL FIRE employees. They've been doing a pretty good job of making sure that we're social distancing, that we're masking up, that we're wearing proper PPE out on calls, and that we're not really allowing anybody that's kind of outside of our pod to come into the station. So that's helping mitigate that issue for us. Most of the staff are participating in some level of the vaccination. I won't speak to how many staff are getting it and how many staff aren't getting it. But as far as the station, we've been pretty successful on keeping it out of the station. We have had some folks that have come through that weren't a part of our battalion that did provide some exposure to us, but we were, so far, we're all negative tests. As far as the North Coast Battalion, which encompasses the Los Osos station, the 2 Cayucas stations, and the Cambria station, we have had zero COVID cases confirmed via test. So we've been pretty good at keeping it out of our area. I know other fire departments in the county have been inundated with some cases. There have been some cases within the CAL FIRE San Luis Obispo unit, but being that we have a larger number of employees, we've been able to maintain our numbers and maintain our staffing. We've not had to downstaff any equipment as a result. We have had some instances with our hand crews that have become unavailable due to quarantining issues and some positive tests. Most notably right now, our Cuesta crews are unavailable due to COVID quarantine, and those are the inmate firefighters that we have out of the California Men's Colony. That's about what I can say to it. The guys are actively participating in the administration of the vaccine with the County Department of Health.
All right, thank you. That's encouraging. I hope your continued success at avoiding the COVID, and hopefully everyone gets vaccinated.
And I will
soon.
say, we're seeing a bump in cases in the county. We're starting to see it at our level with patients that we're seeing. So it is here, maybe not on the scale of Los Angeles in the San Francisco Bay Area, but it is here. One thing that I've been very vigilant in voicing to the staff is make sure that you're taking care of yourselves and make sure that you have a plan for you and your family in case you do come down with it, or you are issued a quarantine letter by the county health. Some things that you can do to help yourself out is make sure that you're getting proper rest, that you're getting exercise, that your diet is of quality. Make sure that you're on some sort of vitamin regimen. Talk to your physician about it. But these are some things that I'm telling to my staff to help better prepare them so that they make themselves a less viable host, while the masking and the social distancing and things of that nature are good preventative measures. Making sure that you're healthy and taking care of yourself is paramount as well. So I think that's something that I've been banging that drum pretty hard since I got here back in May. Coming out of Santa Clara County and seeing the first wave of COVID that came through, that was some of the things, and we were working with the Stanford doctors and having discussions with them. Those were some of the pieces of advice that they gave us up in Santa Clara County, which was kind of the ground zero of the first wave of COVID in the country. So you
have some experience.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And I've just spoke to the folks yesterday that I worked with up there. The Bay Area, they're really getting hammered pretty hard up there. It's pretty tough up there. Almost every call they're running now, where I came from, is a COVID call. So they're getting pretty stressed out up there. So I imagine it's probably, hopefully we'll stay ahead of the curve and won't get quite as impacted as they have up there. But it's only a matter of time before it works its way south or north.
All right. Well, thank you for that report.
Chris, can I continue? Julie had a couple of more.
Yes, please.
Comments.
Yes. That's in my notes. So yes.
On the Fund 500 water budget, yes, we have been having quite a bit of expenses. We've tried to anticipate as many as we can. Going back to the 10th Street well, we didn't anticipate that, but we were anticipating of rehabbing South Bay Lower. So we're going to make some adjustments. We'll see it at the mid-year next meeting in February. And then we are going to be starting on the 2021-22 budget. And Margaret's been working very hard on our capital plan. So we are looking at that closely. You know, I have made the comment that, you know, we've been out about almost 5 years now since we started, you know, we had our first 2 rate increases. It will be on my 2021-22 work plan to start looking at if we need some sort of a rate increase coming up maybe in 2022. I don't anticipate it being large, but just between cost of living increases and prices of goods and services going up, we're seeing an erosion in what we had anticipated in terms of reserve revenue coming in, but we're operationally fine. Finally, with the legislative platform, the only reason that this didn't really come up for more discussion is we passed this platform just last October. But with that, in the resolution and the policy, we are going to look at it every January moving forward. The only items that changed from the October platform were in the revenue, finance, and taxation, and the numbers 5 and 6, if you have it available in Exhibit A to the resolution. And those were recommended, actually, I'm sorry, 4 and 5, and those were recommended to me by CSDA. So we're keeping everything relatively consistent with the special districts and what they're recommending in their legislative platform for us, and then customizing a little bit to our local needs. That's what I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay.
Can I make a motion?
Can I have a, yes, I would love a motion.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the administrative and committee reports and approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Yeah, Chuck seconds.
All right.
Can I do a roll call?
Yes, let's do a roll call vote. Thank you. I'm getting a little lost.
Director Ohelski.
Yes.
Director Sisenia.
Yes.
Director Gatchell.
Yes.
Vice President Croy.
Yes.
President Womack.
Yes. All right. So, does the board have any future agenda items that they would like to see or add? All right. Does the board have any closing comments?
Yeah, Chris, I would just like to make one additional comment regarding the ESAC, since I'm now the chair of the ESAC. We will be working diligently to get this committee back up and operational, but I do recommend to all of the board members that either if you have a past appointee or if you have somebody in mind to be an appointee, that you do those contacts and get moving on that in the short term, especially looking for us to have our first meeting in about 5 weeks. So we do need to have committee members to make that a functional committee.
All right, good point. Any other closing comments?
This is Chuck. I would like to thank the Financial Advisory Committee and staff for all the hard work. It's just so sweet getting a good, clean audit report. There is nothing more important in government than transparency, and a good audit. It provides confidence, and I look forward to the next year and our new leadership and the issues that are going to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd like to thank the auditors for their presentation. I think I should have thanked them earlier, but I'll thank them now. With that, if there are no more closing comments, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Great.
Good night,
everyone.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Bye.